Well, bot killers, you haven't seen us in a while. YouTube, they thought we'd left. Before we
I'm not
leaving.
leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving! The show goes on! YouTube is my home!
Let me guess, they're going to need a wrecking ball to get you out of here.
YouTube's going to need the National Guard to get me out of here!
Season 2. Okay, here we are, Bottle Kill TV Season 2. And we thought this episode would go kind of behind the fourth wall, so to speak. This is kind of, we could do a Season 2. The previous episodes we did, we're going to count that as a Season 1. We had a little hiatus for a couple of weeks, didn't we? As always, I'm your host, Michael Roche. This is the real Bottle Killer. As you should know by now, but if you don't. And we thought it'd be really good to do a bit of a what we learned in doing YouTube, starting a YouTube channel, and what we learned in that first year of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to just tell us quickly, what are we drinking tonight?
So I whipped out the Ardnamurchan AD10. So Ardnamurchan is a really good Highland distillery. They've been around for a while, obviously long enough to release a 10-year-old age statement now. But it's a really popular one. I think it was kind of born out of the critically acclaimed independent bottler Adelphi.
Smells beautiful.
And yeah, this was a special release to commemorate the 10-year anniversary of the distillery. So they do a lot where they have a mixture of unpeated and peated spirit. It's not typically heavily peated, but they are quite well known for putting a bit of peat in the mix. Now this one is an unpeated expression, 10 years old, it's all bourbon cask, and it's bloody delightful.
All right, lovely stuff. So so we thought, not just for people that maybe are thinking about starting their own whiskey channel, we actually decided to start. If we go way back to the genesis of starting a YouTube channel, it was you actually used to do a lot of whiskey content on Instagram, right? Through the Real Bottle Killer channel, and made sort of a name for yourself amongst those like whiskey dram dwellers.
It's a good name,
and we thought, well, why don't we do it on YouTube? Because YouTube's a bit better than Instagram because it's kind of evergreen. It kind of lives forever on YouTube.
Yeah.
On Instagram, sometimes it's people are only willing to watch, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, and then you've got this feed constantly being updated.
Yeah.
YouTube, people can, it's like a search engine.
Well, I think as well, like the thing for me with YouTube is you're putting yourself out there, right? Like people are going to get to see your actual personality, and we'll talk about it more in the episode. But I think that what I enjoy is producing the content, and Instagram, you're going to post a photo. A lot of people started boshing out a few reels, but it's very short form content, and it'll be like someone unboxing a whiskey or something. Like we got bit of discussion, bit of chit chat, bit of jibber jabber. Hopefully a bit of bants.
Bit bants.
I think YouTube is next level.
It was just banter.
Got a few intruders. The perils. Here he is, the wrecking ball.
You coming in? And so if we look at the scores on the doors for the first year, we had 276 subscribers. Mm-hmm. We had 14,047 views.
Not bad.
And the one that I'm most proud of is we did 38 videos we released. We actually probably recorded a few more, but we got lost. But it's kind of the thing I'm most proud of is that we said we were going to start a podcast. And I remember how excruciating the first one was to do and set up and watch.
Yeah.
And we kind of got 38 made. And that means more to me than the amount of subscribers. Still the amount of subscribers, 276, it may be like small fry compared to, so many whiskey channels and obviously the big YouTubers. But I remember going to Scotland the month after we did our first episode. We did our first episode in October, and this was in the November we were in Scotland. And our mates, Dariush and Canadian Jay, who from the channel, they were just hammering us because we only had 12 subscribers. 2 were our burner accounts. 1 was your wife. 1 was my mum and my sister. And like we literally had 12, and every distillery they loved, and we were like, we're YouTubers now. Follow like Molly at Deanston. Come follow us. Mm-hmm. And it was all like they've already got 12. So 276, that's 265 probably real people. That took the time to subscribe, which is it's kind of, you know, they always say, if you don't think about the number itself, think about those people in like an auditorium, in a hall. And if you're speaking to 250 people in a hall, you'd be like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like, the network liked it enough to give us a second season, so here we are. Back once again.
Give us a second season, you shit.
There we go.
And so yeah, that's my biggest thing that I'm proud of is just start. You know, it's never, you know, they say it's gonna take 100 podcasts before this even good. I thought we nailed it after about 5, if I'm perfectly honest.
There was some really good episodes, and that's one of the things, you know, like what we wanted to talk about today and share. If there's, you know, anybody out there that watches or that's thinking about starting a channel, I think, like Michael said, like just start, just get going. But I think that sticking with it is like a big deal, like the learnings that we've had along the way. And when you go back to look at some of the episodes that we've done, like you say, there was some really good stuff in there. Like if you go back through the channel, I mean, probably highlights for me, there's ones that we really enjoyed doing, so that's a good thing. Is like, I remember when we did the first episode, even though the quality of it wasn't great, like we were so pumped afterwards, like just the adrenaline. And then we had like
it wasn't until I watched it took me a month to edit that episode, and this is the just start, and don't wait, it will never be, except it's gonna be shit when you first do it. It took me a month to edit that episode because it was so excruciating. It was like, I always said to people at the time, it was kind of like when, like, we're like 90s kids, and we had like answer machines when we were growing up. And it was like listening to your voice on an answer machine for the first time. And you're like, that's not me. I don't sound like that. Like, that's somebody else. Like, what is with this answering machine?
That's not my voice.
That was literally what it felt like. It was just like, and everyone hates the sound of their own voice, right? It's just a natural and built, very human thing. And so hearing that for the first time and seeing your mannerisms, and especially with like added nerves and added alcohol, because we probably had a few too many Guinness before to like ease the nerves.
Yeah.
As well.
Touch courage.
So it was
I do
very valuable experience as well to see yourself.
100%. And I do remember like the first one that we did. It's so weird because like we're just sat here in, you know, my sort of whiskey library / man cave, and there's no one else here. There's no one watching, and like then a lot of it sort of through the journey, you realize that like so much of the improvement comes through the editing. Like I think we're now a lot more comfortable with making a long episode and cutting it and trying to sort of get it down to like, you know, 12, 15 minutes that people are hopefully actually going to watch and stay all the way to the end for. But I was so like nervous, like just absolute fear factor and sort of, oh, what am I going to say? And then if you watch like episode 1 compared to, how many have we done? 38?
38.
So like episode, you know, the ones in the 30s, the more recent ones, like how comfortable we are on camera is such a big change. Like you almost sort of, you forget that they're here nowadays and we just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, well, the big one for me, and this sounds like very Freudian, but my biggest fear was like, I was like, my mum's probably going to watch this. Or what if my mum watches it? And the day we released it on YouTube, my mum was like the first person to watch it. and she started watching all of the episodes, even though she doesn't like whiskey at all. She just liked listening to some of our stories and get a bit of an insight. But it was so that kind of got over that barrier really, really quickly. It's like the worst thing that could happen is your mum watched it. And well, she did straight away. She was the first one to watch it. So once I'd done that, I was like, that got me over that fear factor.
Surely the worst thing that could happen is no one watches it.
Well, you know, that's a really good point, because there are a lot of podcasts that I see people do. It's a lot, like, you know, everyone says like, you know, every business person's like, you know, you should start a podcast, be a personal brand. You could start a podcast. Yeah. And you look at these podcasts and they've got guests on and they've got 6 views.
Yeah.
Like we have, every video's got over 100 views that we have, apart from one, I think, which is kind of cool. Actually, the top 3 episodes that we have, I actually got it here. So number 1, what do you think our top episode was? Well, you know what the top one was.
Yeah, Lefroy 18.
Which I think is probably one of the best episodes. So I'm glad that is the most viewed.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lefroy 18 is why people come to that video. But I think we delivered a good review.
Yeah.
We had a good little sketch at the start as well.
Yeah.
And you know what we've tried to do is we've tried to do a little bit of our. It's so hard with the nerves not to just do a boring whiskey review. We're trying to add a bit of comedy, a bit of our characters, you know, a bit of your home life into the thing. And I think we did a good job on the Freud 18 of you know, a little sketch before. And
Yeah, the Rick the Ruler. Yeah, I'm pleased with that one.
it's kind of interesting because I've always found when we've wrote the sketches that we do at the start, when we wrote them and we do them ourselves, I kind of feel like more comfortable than when I'm trying to imitate somebody else. Like when we tried to do the Ricky Gervais The Office one or Hugh Grant, you realize why they're like professional actors. we're like semi-retired YouTubers making our return.
100%.
Because it's, you know, it's tough, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
To deliver lines on like timing, because obviously comedy is when we try and be a bit funny at the start of the videos. It's all timing.
And that's a great point, and that's one of the other lessons that I was going to say. You know, if I was sort of picking out my top 3 learnings from doing a year of YouTube, is just how much respect I've got for real content creators, like people that create podcasts. Like, it's kind of a hobby for us. You know, hopefully in the future it's something that we can really build on and you know, keep doing consistently and expanding into different forms of content. But a lot of it we do off the cuff. The ones where it's like, it's the planning, you know, you're trying to get thoughts together on, like you say, we don't want to sort of fall into that lane of we just do whiskey reviews, or it's great when there's a new release and they do really well. And we'll always do things like that, but we want more diversity. We want to bring people in. You always talk about the cast of characters and, like, you know, really sort of building up. How do we bring other people into it? Not
Build
like
a world.
Yeah, a world
building,
of you know, the people sort of get, you know, Chris has been on a couple of episodes and people will start seeing
Dariush, Canadian
Chris
Jay,
regularly and stuff.
We had Matty, who mentioned Molly from Deanston a couple of times. The what's the fella from Ardenhoe? He's got a few mentions.
Oh, Paul.
Maybe Paul will like get on the channel one time.
Yeah, definitely. But like, and you know, I've got 2 kids, full-time job. And then, you know, beyond that is obviously like, this is the fun part where you sat down, you're drinking the whiskey, like you're making the content. And then afterwards, you know, you've got to do the editing. And there's been times when I'm like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, doing like 2 hours of editing and then taking the kids to school and then starting work, you know, to try and get the video out on time. Cause we said like, we'll record on this day and then we want to have it like out. So there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that, you know, I think people sort of, you know, take for granted. And a lot of people will go, that, you know, that's not a real job, like an influencer, whatever. But I've got so much respect for content creators that actually, you know, put really good stuff out there and treat it as a passion, like a real profession, like they take it seriously.
Yeah, and when we first started, I used to always say to you, it usually takes, say the episode is 20 minutes, it'll probably take 3 times as long, so like an hour to edit it. But I think the editing's kind of speeded up now. I'm not as you just get more of a flow than you used to. It takes people don't realize even the channels. One thing with the production, which I'm really happy about, and this is like if I was to give anyone advice, like just start. My second one was, I think I really nailed. We had 2 decisions to make when we first started. Do we prioritize sound? Do we prioritize vision quality? You know,
yeah.
Do we buy microphones or do we buy cameras? And we just use iPhones and Samsung, or is it Pixel?
Yeah, Pixel. Yeah.
And then we bought these Rode mics from the first episode. We didn't know how to use them for the first 4 or 5. And that's why we had me in one ear and you in the other ear.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Rather than so we didn't even know how to use them, but they look good,
yeah.
And I think that adds authority. But also on YouTube, I think the sound is more important. A conversational show like we have, sound is way more important than vision.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, you know, one thing for me, well, a couple of things is, one, like, I do want the visuals to get better. I think in here we're okay. Like, we sort of, you know, we've got it. And I spent a lot of time messing around with like lighting. I remember there was a Sunday and I was like put this light on, put these lights on, like it doesn't look good. And literally I was in here for like 2 hours just trying to figure out what was the best lighting.
Yeah.
So and that plays a big part, because if you go back to like the first episode, sometimes it was too bright and we just looked like, you know, like alien spaceship had come down on the X-Files and just like shone a big bright light in our eyes or something.
There was one where the window was open one day.
Yeah.
And it was on my face. The sun was shining on my face, and it looked like, you know, on Game of Thrones when they get like grayscale. That's why it looked like I had grayscale on like one side of my face. One was like perfect lit, one was grayscale. It's like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. So I think that, and then other things like, well, the first one, if we go back to the first one when we started, in here it was like Spaghetti Junction. Like we didn't have a clue what we were doing. There wasn't the TV, and there was like all these like wet patches on the wall where like the damp had like got in the chimney and stuff, and it looked awful. It looked so bad. And then like here it was like, if you tried to move or something, you'd like knock over the camera, you'd have to start again. So like we got a much smoother kind of like setup in terms of like we can just come in, like we know where everything is and we can get going. And there was some like the height of the camera was too wrong, and you didn't have, because this is a great background like with the bottles there. And you like sometimes the heights was wrong, so I think the visuals massively improved as we went through, but sound is definitely more important. I was coming back from a work thing in the week, and just ahead of this episode, not watching back, but going through some of the content that we'd done, and I just had my earbuds in, and I was mostly just listening to it on the train. Yeah,
I think that's a good way to consume podcasts.
Yeah,
and stuff. And so 2 more questions. One was, what was your top 3 favorite episodes? Or what was your if there's 2 episodes that stand out, you don't need to do 3 if it's a little hard to think of 3. And then also we'll say, you know, what's your sort of goal for, you know, here on out for season 2?
Good questions. You know, I think there's 2 ways of looking at the favorite episodes. Is like, one is the fun that you had in making them, and then the 2 is like the end result. You know what I mean? So I'm really proud. Like I think we've really produced some good content. Like you say, the Lefroy 18 was a really good episode. I think the Ardnahoe that we did when that was initially released, the inaugural release, that was really good. We had like the funky shirts on. The Rock'n'Dar one, the only regret with that is I think we should have done the episode without the sunglasses on, because that was a really good episode content-wise.
Yeah.
And we kept the sunglasses on after the intro, and it kind of, you know, it ruined it a little bit. It
looked a bit too irreverent, didn't it?
Yeah, and then when you talk about like the ones making it, is like the ones where we've got other people involved. So don't want to do any spoilers, because we've got another one coming out where we've got a couple of guests, but the Whiskey Gladiators. And then the other one that I'd say is Bits or No Bits, just because it was like absolute bants. Like we just made it up off the cuff, and basically like Bits or No Bits. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. Give it a watch.
Just any attempt to hammer Philip Schofield, you weren't going to miss it.
Basically, yeah. What we did is this stupid game where it was like Mike would name a celebrity, and I had to sort of guess what type of whiskey they would drink. But there's some absolute crackers on there. Go back and watch it. I'm not going to give it away, otherwise you've got no incentive.
My favorite episode was probably Whiskey Gladiators.
Whiskey Gladiators was fun. Yeah,
Jay and Matty. That was fun, but that was very sort of. There was a guy in our local whiskey club, Mick, that said, "I watched the Gladiators episode." And it was all like inside jokes, but most fun making episode was that.
Yeah. Do you know what as well? That's one thing that I forgot is thumbnails, because like in the beginning, again, these are all the things that like you don't think of, like titles and thumbnails play such a critical role in actually getting eyes on the content. So you might make an episode and you're like, this is a great episode, like we've nailed it, you know, we've done it the right length, like it's got some really good highlights, like people would love it. But if the title's not catchy and like the thumbnail's like not something that people are like, oh, that looks interesting, I'm going to click.
Yeah.
And we went through a bit of a journey with the thumbnails. But the Whiskey Gladiators one, honest to God, my mother-in-law and like my wife's family were up, and I'd made the thumbnail for that, and basically purposely done like a really crap kind of Photoshop and put everyone's heads on like the gladiators' bodies, and I was just laughing my head off, like crying with laughter. And they're like, "Is he still laughing at that thumbnail?" And I was just like absolutely pissing my pants. Like I don't think I've ever laughed so much just off something so stupid.
That's like Wayne when he did his faithful.
Don't talk about it. We'll definitely get cancelled if we talk about Wayne.
Don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
And then year ahead, like
So
what are we excited about?
I was gonna say just my other fave episode was the Deanston drink through. That was one where we got most drunk, but that was one where we got two gifts this year. We got a Deanston sent us a lovely little package with 5 little drams to try, and we did an episode like a Deanston drink through. That was probably my favorite episode going through it because the whiskey was so fantastic. And that was our first time we got they just give us a gift. Like Molly at Deanston gave us a gift just because she wanted to. And we had a Teelings. We got given a Teelings as well.
Yeah, we still haven't. We'll do that this
which
season.
Which is kind of like the bad side is that, you know, I would love to get more freebies, but what we did with that one is we made the episode twice. We didn't think it justified the generosity of the gift that Teelings gave us, which will be revealed what it was in a future episode. So we still haven't released it. And we probably had it for about 4 months, haven't we? So we're a little bit behind on it, and I feel bad about that.
Yeah, definitely. But I think as well, like you say, you know, it was a case of we want the content to justify like the gifts.
But that's one thing that you should never do on YouTube. I'm quantity over quality. I think at the start, you know, I think we don't. There's an episode of South Park where they show you how they make South Park, and they make it in 6 days. Like literally, they have like a guy on a moped driving to the studio to like give it to the TV station to put it on, like Fox. And they say, well, why do you stress yourself out? They have like sleepless nights for 6 days to do this. Why do you stress yourself out? Why don't you just take a month to do it? And he says, Trey Parker says, well, because I know that in 6 days I'll make 85% of what I could make. That extra 15% for a month, it's not worth it.
It doesn't make a difference.
We would not have as many episodes. So I'd rather get the idea out, get on to the next idea. And so I think it's that's one of those ones that I think, you know, it's advice I'd give is it is the sort of you got an idea, try and do the idea. We've got a bit of a backlog of ideas. We've had a few months off, and so I think when we get back, I'm really happy to really start clearing that backlog now, and get some more of the more creative stuff done.
Do you know the Deanston drink through? I'm almost certain, because I remember, because I did the editing for that one, and Everett was off with chicken pox, and he ran in a couple of times. And the reason why I was off that day, and I was like, oh, I can't believe he's got chicken pox, it was because I'd been to Dublin. I'd been to Dublin for a 40th. Just honest, like, did not need to be drinking on a Monday. I'd basically booked the Monday off because I knew I was going to be hanging. You rocked up at ours at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm drinking like Lefroy 10-year-old.
I think we did Lefroy 18 first.
And then we did Lefroy 18. We shot the Lefroy 18. Then we did the Deanston drink through, and it was like 5 drams, but the drams were like massive. And we got absolutely we were annihilated. Like
that's as drunk as I've been.
I
don't like to be drunk on camera, but I was absolutely annihilated on that.
Absolutely, yeah, it was. There's some really good bits in that. I made it into a short of like the highlights of like the drunkenness. Yeah. It was classic. But yeah, I couldn't have been less up for drinking whiskey or making YouTube videos than I was at 10 o'clock in the morning. But by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when we'd done the Deanston drink through, it was like
and so and then just one thing which I think is one thing that we're still working on, still getting better at, is trying to keep episodes tight. So just quickly run through with because we're rambling a bit on this episode. What is season 2? What have you got anything in mind, or anything you want to tell the bottle killers worldwide?
What's the direction with season 2? I think season 2 for me is building on the platform that we've got. Number one, like, we want to get back to consistency, but I think that in terms of we did some cool things with the content, like the discussion episode that we did where we ranked all of the Isla distilleries. Thought the Deanston drink through was really good. Obviously we had like things like bits or no bits and the sketches, and then when we like bring other people into it. So I like the diversity of the content, and what we don't want to do is just fall into that comfort zone of we always do whiskey reviews. But for me, and I'm pretty sure you're the same, is we want to do more different forms of content. We've got loads of ideas where we get out and we do them like, in cities and like on sort of location. We always say we're going to film the whiskey tour, but we always just end up getting too drunk to produce any good content. But do you know what I mean? I want to do more content where this is the standard in the man cave, but we do more where we're out and about and we do different forms of content and more sort of interesting and challenging things that really put us in that category of what we, believe is the ethos of the channel, which is whiskey entertainment. Like, we're not whiskey reviewers, we're not whiskey podcasters, we're whiskey entertainers.
Yeah, I think I did lean into more the entertainment side, but there was one podcast that was supposed to be on location, which was you in Dublin, but we're still waiting for it. We're still waiting. We might even get GTA 6 has got a release date now. It's the fall. We might get GTA 6 before we got Dublin tour review.
The highlight, I'll tell you,
you were going because it looked wild, the footage that you got that I saw.
So wild. There's basically, so my wife Helen, and then the guy whose 40th we went for, a guy called Dave, his girlfriend is Sean, and there's basically a little short clip of those two, Sean and Helen, in the Guinness storehouse, and they're like, James is like basically drunk, scaring people, telling everyone that he's like this famous YouTuber. I'll put something together. I'll get it. I'll make it part of season 2. I promise.
Okay, Dublin.
Season finale will be the release of the Dublin vlog.
No, it won't. We'll do a better. we'll do a better finale than our bollocks. But I do want to see it because
it's like Detox, Dr. Dre. It never came out.
But anyway, let's wrap it up. Yeah, I'd say if you've made it all the way through this episode, then thank you. You are a true bottle killer. And I hope that there was some wise words. And I hope it's just one of those things that, one thing that I'm really proud about that we did is that we had an idea. We told everybody, we do a podcast in like October, November time last year. And, a year later, we had 38 episodes. And a couple of people throughout the year, my friend Jameson, my friend Matt, texted me recently and he goes, how's the podcast doing? And I can actually say, check it out. We've done 38 episodes.
Yeah.
Whereas
nice.
what do most people do like 2 episodes.
And quit.
And we did 38, and now we're back for another season. So yeah, Bottle Killer, take them out.
Yeah, well, like Michael said, I do just before I do the usual closing remarks is just say thank you to, not just anyone who's watched this episode, but all of the subscribers, people that have tuned in for the content. We love doing this. We're going to have more coming out this year. We're back for the 2nd season. But just to close things out, I've had a really good time. I hope you've had a good time. Michael? Have you had a good time?
Apart from the intro.
And we'll see you next time on Bottle Kill TV. Stay back for season 2.